Earlier this year at PAX East, Digital Extremes held a live developer stream where they showcased information regarding the next mainline update for Warframe, Isleweaver. For this update, they revealed quite a lot of exciting content involving progression of the game's main storyline, a new spider-themed playable Warframe, Spider-Frame confirmed, a clan event with some sweet new cosmetics, and, most importantly to me, the inclusion of a new game mode in the open world map known as Duviri. This caught my interest as during my 10 plus years of playing Warframe, no update had me more excited than the Duviri Paradox update. It was our first introduction to the Duviri open world, and with it, a fresh new roguelike structured spin on the Warframe experience. As a relatively veteran fan of roguelikes, I was originally looking forward to the update since it seemed like a fun way to mix up the normal MMO style of the Warframe gameplay. Typically, roguelikes excel at offering challenging, unique, and bit-sized experiences as players work with the tools they come across in a run. However, when the update released for Warframe in April of 2023, I was slightly disappointed by how the roguelike elements were implemented. My biggest concern being that players could bring aspects of their pre-made loadouts into runs, meaning a player could choose to use a weapon or Warframe that they had already invested resources into. While this may not seem like a problem, I believe it played a hand in souring the roguelike elements of the Duviri experience. Mainly for veteran players, all senses of challenge or decision making were basically thrown out the window when they were presented with a weapon or Warframe they had already invested resources into. Since there isn't an incentive to use specific weapons, players would likely choose the starting gear that would guarantee them the most success in their run, which in most cases could negate any challenge the run would have presented to them. Given my understanding of roguelikes, a crucial part of what makes them fun is the challenge. The pressure of knowing that one wrong move could end your entire run is what keeps players engaged as they make decisions to synergize their unpredictable rewards into accumulated power and boost their chances of success. So with that pressure removed, Duviri runs became nothing but repetitive attempts at earning rewards locked behind predictably easy sessions. And so, coupled with what is already considered repetitive gameplay by most veterans, I recall a large portion of the player base quickly growing tired of Duviri's main game loop. There was a silver lining in that the new players were originally able to access Duviri's game modes immediately after booting up the game for the first time, but due to narrative reasons, which I somewhat agree with, that was eventually removed in a later update. Additionally, Duviri got a couple more tweaks since release, but Digital Extremes eventually began to work on other updates like the recently released Warframe 1999, and Duviri was no longer the focus. So to hear that the next update, Isleweaver, is returning to Duviri could mean that Digital Extremes might be planning to fully realize that roguelike experience. So what might a fully realized roguelike look like in Warframe? To its credit, while Duviri's current game loop may not initially have the draw of an engaging roguelike, I'd say that it mainly lacks this because it has yet to implement anything new to draw players to it outside of more one-time rewards and more infinitely farmable resources that all just feed into the already ludicrous power fantasy of the main game. Now, I wouldn't want resource gathering to become needlessly more difficult, so I think making a separate game mode of the Duviri experience, perhaps an expert or hardcore mode, would be a satisfactory solution. A new mode centered around challenge and achievement-based rewards, like the profile icons earned from using different members of the Hex to complete the Steel Path 1999 tank fight. This would be a space for players to experience a true roguelike within Warframe, and I believe all that's missing from what we currently have is a few key factors of difficulty that are actually already present in 3 other game modes of Warframe. The first factor I like to identify is the removal of self-revives, which is found in modes like Arbitrations or Archimedia missions. At base, when doing a run in Duviri, a player is able to self-revive themselves 4 times, and that can be extended to 6 if their equipped Warframe is using arcanes that provide additional revives. This causes the penalty of being defeated by enemies to lose any tension, as a player can simply choose to extract at the next checkpoint if they've been dying too much and start up a new run. This sort of makes sense for current Duviri as it helps with resource farming and progression, but since this trivializes any difficulty posed by enemies, I think a challenge-focused version of Duviri would benefit from having no self-revives. Kicking a player out instantly could be received poorly, so only letting players continue to the next round if they haven't bled out might work instead. Additionally, I'd like to see the removal of operator usage for this mode, so that players aren't able to cheat death or revive their allies easily. Giving players the ability to be basically untouchable while reviving allies can make multiplayer runs drag on, as nothing would stop players from infinitely reviving one another. A second and less frightening factor they could add to this hypothetical mode is the score system seen in Sanctuary Onslaught, which could serve as a way to encourage players to test themselves and see how high of a score they could achieve. There could also be weekly leaderboards like the ones for every node of the star chart, alongside cosmetic rewards for when players achieve certain milestone scores. Digital Extremes has experience in incentivizing players in this manner with operations, and they even intend to run an operation upon releasing the Isleweaver update. So I imagine that something permanent to encourage playing the mode could be implemented as well. The last factor, and probably most controversial of the three, would be the limitations to mods similarly to how it is implemented in the missions players must complete to earn parts for the Grendel Warframe. These missions are notoriously known for being drastically more difficult than the normal Warframe content, as they remove any upgrades players may have gained during their playtime, leaving them with only the base capabilities of their gear. While this may seem drastic, instead of the removal of all mods, players would be given a base set of pre-installed mods for the gear they choose from at the start. This would make it so players are starting from a common level of power, and the choice of decrees that they are offered will play a much bigger role in sculpting their run. It also helped with encouraging new players to give a more challenging Warframe experience a try, as a competitive attempt at the leaderboard wouldn't require a lengthy amount of prep time. With all that said though, Isleweaver does release Wednesday, and Digital Extreme hasn't talked much about looking to make Warframe more difficult with this update, but it has been fun speculating what this mode might play like, and I kinda figured it might be more fun to even try and play with these rules in the current Duviri mode. After all, most of the features of this hardcore mode can be experienced through self-imposed restrictions. So to test out how this mode might feel, I've recently begun doing circuit runs in Duviri with newly made loadouts for each frame with nothing but the Dreamer's Bond Aura mod equipped. As for weapons, I still retain the liberty of picking whatever combination of primary, secondary, and melee I want, but make sure to only use the default mods loadout. So far I've only tried a few runs, but they've been some of the most engaging circuit and open world runs I've done, and have gotten me even more excited for what the Isleweaver update may bring to Duviri. So in the meantime, if you're looking for something challenging to try in Warframe, I highly recommend giving these types of runs a try. I do think that Digital Extremes has the potential to turn Duviri game modes into a quality roguelike experience if they are able to keep players interested with challenging content. This can be done by encouraging players to make decisions that hold more weight in affecting the success of their runs, instead of the currently predictable sessions of mindless killing. In doing this, they won't only create a difficult game mode to mix things up for veterans, they will also be creating a convenient one-stop mission, where new players can try out gear they might not have known existed in a challenging environment that lets them indulge in the creative options Warframe's arsenal of tools provides. Most importantly though, a properly balanced challenge will give all players, new and old, a common starting ground to work from, which I imagine will work well in Warframe's already amazing community of players. All in all, Isleweaver is looking to be yet another great update for Warframe, and I can't wait to see what else Digital Extremes has planned for the rest of the year. Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed the video.